Well, a lot of boat clubs will do that kind of thing, whether it's sail or whether it's power. They do regattas like that. A lot of the members in the dealerships have their own gatherings. Maybe the Sea Ray, for example, will have a Sea Ray gathering. I think it was last year in Harbor Springs, the Hatteras people all gathered. There was Hatteras boats from all over the country.
Okay.
Yes, there are a lot of those things that you can join up with so that you're not traveling alone, and it's a very good way to travel.
Now, is there any particular type of one of those cruises you like?
I actually like the cruise up into the North Channel, up into Mackinac Island and Drummond and over into the Canadian waters. It's so gorgeous up there in the summertime. It really takes your breath away.
I've heard a lot about it. What's it like up there?
Be like stepping back in time with no lights. If you anchored out at night, you got a perfect view of the sky. There is no foreign light into it. You would be able to fish right off your boat and catch fish while you're anchored and cook the fish, and the family can swim. It's just a great place to go, as many of our ports are.
Okay, so that would be north of Drummond Island, and you go through the St. Mary's River, and then up. Well,
you'd probably just, if you were going from Rogers City, for example, you'd go across to Tobermory.
Yep.
And then you can you can spend 3 months up there, actually, Senator.
Very good. Now, have you been up sort of in like over to the western part of the Upper Peninsula? Have you been over to Isle Royale or any of those places up in Lake Superior?
I have, as a matter of fact. The current boat that I operate myself, we took our family and went on an extended cruise all through the Lake Superior over to Isle Royale, which is something else to see in itself, as you would know. But it's very easy to do. It's go through the locks, and whether you're sailing or powering, and away you go.
We had the opportunity for Engineers Day last year to take the family on one of the Coast Guard cutters.
Oh, yeah.
And go through the locks. And what a unique experience. I didn't know about all the traditions, and they had us kiss the wall. Because that was the first time you go through the locks, the sailor's supposed to kiss the wall, which was kind of a fun. So they held our arms and leaned us over the boat and had us kiss the wall, and it's just that in itself is a wonderful experience, just to understand the science and the technology behind.
It really is
what's going on there,
and how far and how fast they can raise you up and take you back down, and which is the way we control some water levels.
Yeah. Okay, now what types of safety items should a typical family, or how do they find out about the safety items on a boat?
Well, your dealers or whomever you're buying the boat from can fill you in on what the state requires and what the federal government requires, the Coast Guard. Obviously, your personal flotation devices is #1 thing that you want to have and that are required on the boat. Radios are another thing that you should have, emergency lighting, flashlights or whatever, flares in case you break down in the middle of the night. Whether you're on an inland lake or whether you're on the Great Lakes, if you break down or something in the middle of the night and you need help, you should have those materials with you.
Now, I was reading there's like a training that they can take through the Coast Guard. Is that like the Power Squadron, or do you get that through your dealership on the sort of the safety training?
Most of your dealers will have where the safety training can be had, like the Coast Guard Auxiliary and the sheriff's departments that give the educational classes for the power boating and sailboating courses, actually. Most of the dealers will be able to tell you that. Your local sheriff would be able to put you in touch with that because they work together with the Coast Guard, and they're pretty easy to find.
Okay, very good. Now, is there a safety inspection that you have to do every year on your boat, or is that just a registration process? How does that work?
There are safety inspections that are, this time of the year especially, are generally offered by the Coast Guard Auxiliary, and they check all of your equipment to make sure it's up to date. If it's in what it requires, that you have it all on your boat. On a smaller boat, it's just a personal thing that you really need to do yourself. That sometimes you can mislay something, and before you leave on a trip, if they just check out that, okay, I have all my stuff,
Right.
you know, the kids took the flares out, but I went and got new ones, or
Mhm.
something like that. Check it out yourself and make sure you're safe.
Okay, very good. Now, in regards to, is there a, through your Michigan boating website, is that a good spot to pick this information up? Do they have a safety list you should be checking out? Is that a place?
They would be able to provide you with where
Okay.
you could get the list
Okay.
if they don't have it,
Okay,
yes.
very good. Now, in regards to summer activities going on within your industry, you talked a little bit about the Detroit Boat Show. That was in March?
In February.
February.
Mhm.
What other types of things do you have going on in the industry?
Well, almost every area has so many events going on. I know in Traverse City they have some sail displays, I
Okay.
think, or a
Okay.
Trail of Lights. Mount
Okay.
Clemens has a parade of lights. You have the Detroit boat races.
Mm-hmm.
The two biggies are, of course, the Chicago to Mackinac and the Port Huron to
Yeah.
Mackinac big sailboat races, nationally, internationally known.
And tell me, what do you know what the history is on that?
It was started in Detroit at one of the boat clubs in, oh my gosh, I've been there 100
Yeah.
times, Senator.
Okay, and so they started like, you know, several,
Bayview, yeah.
okay,
Club.
so it was like back at the turn of the last century, wasn't it?
It's been a long time. It was
Yeah.
before I got in the industry.
And then they've had these races. Now, is there scoring that goes on? I've read about. So
Mhm.
that you handicap the boats. And
The boats are handicapped by weight and
Mm-hmm.
by length and by breadth and whatever. And you have, I think in the last Mackinac race I attended, there were like 15 different classes of boats that all start,
Okay.
from one central point.
okay, and then they start in Detroit,
No, the Port Huron race
starts in
in Port Huron,
and then
out
it goes
in the
up,
lake.
and then it goes up to Mackinac Island, and then
Mackinac
back,
Island.
and then back, or is it one way?
No, it terminates at Mackinac Island.
Okay.
And each year, this Chicago and the Port Huron race swap. So
Oh,
one
really?
year they're going from Chicago to Mackinac, then they go to Port Huron and go back. And it's a very interesting and actually pretty historical for boating.
Well, I know it's been a big issue on the island trying to find appropriate lodging for all the boats, and some of the challenges with certain enforcement, and then the large influx of people that comes. It's a huge boon economically.